Hi, everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Upcycled Adulting, where I am here to help you upcycle your real life into your best life by overcoming obstacles, creating healthy habits, and growing to accomplish your goals. And we are wrapping up our stress focus here at Upcycled Adulting. So today I want to talk about what happens after stress and how to best cope with that. Now, I know some of you might be feeling a long ways off from this, but that doesn't mean that you should not be watching because the more that you know about this, the better job you can do preparing for that after stress time and really being prepared and doing the right things or these important things to support yourself will help set you up for future success. Now, I know that you might be thinking, that once the stress has passed, you'll finally have the energy to do all the things in your life that have been falling by the wayside during this stressful time. You might be feeling like you will be refreshed and overjoyed. You'll be like, Yay, I'm so excited because I'm finally through that stressful time. But in reality, that is not what happens. And so today I'm going to share what does happen, why it happens, and how you can best transition from your stressful time to your more peaceful time with the best possible outcomes. Because let's face it, that's what we all want. We all want for our lives to be as peaceful as possible, as intentional as possible, and for them to feel really good and amazing, for ourselves to feel really good and amazing. And there are definitely some things that you need to do and can do to make that happen. Now, for those of you who don't know, who maybe are new here and you don't know me, my name is Cassie Feld, and I have five children. Yes, five. Two of my kids have special needs, and we went through as a family what I call, all lovingly now, the 7 years of hell. This was a period of time where three of my children almost died, were hospitalized, were in intensely critical situations, whether that be related to mental health or substance use disorders, eating disorders, all sorts of really complicated stuff happening in our family. We have a blended family, and my three oldest children have a lot of early childhood trauma. From their previous family situation, but always lived in our house. So it was quite a trying time for our family. During this time, rather than addressing my stress, I went full head forward into it, with all kinds of anxious thinking and extreme challenges with things like sleeping, which is where I learned a lot of what I know now about stress. I ended up crashing, went through burnout, and had to find a way to readdress my stress because in this time period, I became really, really sick. I was first diagnosed with cancer, which was surgically addressed, and then diagnosed with an autoimmune condition that's a chronic condition that I'm still managing today. So, I know a thing or two about stress, and I know a thing or two since then about how to cope with life stressors and how to transition back into a time of peace. Because the reality is, no matter how equipped you are to deal with stress, stress will happen. Life will happen. You will have deadlines at work. You will have peopling issues, right? Where the people in your life are creating stress. Just the other day, my aunt told me that her life would be so much more stress free if she could just control what all the people around her do, the choices that they make, and all of the behaviors that they put out there. She would just have such an easy life. And I have to tell you that most of us feel that way, but unfortunately, that's not true. The only person you can control, of course, is you, which we're going to be talking about in the next few weeks. But for right now, let's talk about how we transition from a high stress period to a lower stress period in the best possible way and what's really going on for you. So, the first thing I want to talk about is what's happening to your body when you are stressed. Now, I've touched on this a little bit before, but I really want to get into it here because it's important to understanding what needs to happen to smoothly transition out of stress. When you are experiencing stress, especially chronic stress or episodic stress, where you have multiple stressors, just bam, 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 back to back, right? What happens is your cortisol levels rise, your dopamine levels rise so that you have the motivation that you need to address the stressor and to stay addressing that stressor, and your immune system gets fired up. Now, these things happen because back in the day, in early human times, our stressors were things like bears chasing us through the woods, right? And so, what we needed to be able to do was survive that. We might have stress of a plague or a famine, and we needed to be able to survive that. So, our bodies put into place these survival mechanisms that make our immune systems work really hard, that increase anti-inflammatories. So when you're running, for example, from the bear, if you cut yourself or hurt yourself, it will swell and it will heal more quickly, things like that. And this matters. This is important and it's helpful for your body. And while it can be difficult to see this, it's actually a good thing. The only problem is when we are at elevated stress levels for an extended period of time, we have these chemical reactions going on in our bodies throughout that period. And when that stressor is no longer present, we tend to be going here and then it's like, boom, right off a cliff. And when we go off that cliff, our immune system slows down. We have less anti inflammatories in our body, and our dopamine levels decrease. This is a recipe for disaster. And what people usually refer to this as is letdown. During letdown, you may notice that you feel incredibly fatigued. You have almost no motivation, maybe even none whatsoever. You may also experience pain in your body or illness or flare ups if you have a chronic illness like I do. This is caused by the decrease in all of these stress hormones in your body. The best way to prevent this is to give your body a more gradual transition. And we can do that by introducing lower level stressors. Some of these lower level stressors include things like exercise. And now, don't worry, I don't mean intense, rigorous exercise. I just mean 5 to 7 minutes a day where you're physically more active than you usually are. The higher you can exercise during that time, the higher your tolerance is, the more that you want to do there so that you're putting a little bit of stress on your body. When we exercise, we improve immune function and our bodies naturally start producing anti inflammatories to heal from our exercise session. You may also want to make sure that you are doing things that are mentally challenging. Why? Because a lot of times after stress, we find that our brain has all of these anxious thoughts, right? Our brain was so occupied by trying to solve the problem before, by trying to address whatever our stressor was before, that when it's gone, it leaves this void and your brain will try to fill it, potentially with stressful thoughts or with anxious thoughts. For that reason, you want to give your brain something else to do. That may mean playing chess or playing Scrabble, doing crossword puzzles or Sudoku, any kind of problem solving that you can put your mind to is a good idea to keep it busy. This is also really helpful for pre stress. If you are a person who, before the stressor, you start to have anxious thoughts or you start perseverating or you get hyper vigilant, keeping your brain challenged and active is going to help reduce those thoughts. And that's really important. The next thing you may want to consider doing is taking on a project. And no, you will not feel motivated to do this, not in any way. So find a small part of that project to get yourself started. Projects generally take some physical demand and some mental demand, and that can help you to transition more gradually into a more stress free situation. It can also help you to get a little bit caught up. The most important thing here is you want to start with something super small, something that can be done in 2 minutes or less, something that is really approachable for you. So, for example, if your laundry has been backing up through this project time or through this stressful time, then maybe the first thing you want to do is just collect it. That's it. You're just going to collect your laundry and put it all in one place. Count that as a win. We want to be really mindful of keeping our accomplishment journals during this time. Every single day, we want to write 3 to 5 things that we've accomplished that day, even if the only thing we accomplished is getting out of bed. That counts. It's important to do this because there are two primary times when you produce dopamine. One is at the outset of a challenge or when you're starting out to accomplish a goal. And the second is when you have accomplished it, when you've accomplished something, right? You get these spikes in dopamine. And because you had an elevated dopamine level during your stress, now you're going to have a dip. What you want to do is find ways to bring that level back up so that you'll have more motivation. The easiest and fastest way to do that is to set out to do something very small, to do it, and to give yourself credit for it. That will cause your body to produce dopamine. Now, for those of you who are like, I just feel so lazy, I feel so undisciplined, why can't I just make myself do it? The reason you can't make yourself do it is because motivation is caused by a chemical reaction in your body. Just like stress is so much more than just a feeling, it's a bunch of chemical things happening in your body. So is motivation. And the biggest motivation chemical in your body is dopamine. So that's why we want to make sure we do this. That's going to help us increase or rebound our motivation levels so that we can start doing some of the things we need to do. The next thing I want you to do is reduce your tech use or be much more mindful about what you're consuming. With your mind no longer having this stressor that you have been dealing with in there, it may seek another stressor. It's going to seek to, remember, fill that new cleared space, right? Where the stressor previously was sitting. And sometimes we naturally will gravitate toward other things that are stressful. That's why it's really important at this time to reduce your social media and tech use, to consider avoiding things like the news or any kind of arguing online. It's also important at this time to avoid content related to conspiracy. Your brain is a lot more vulnerable during this time, and getting sucked into some stressful conspiracy theory is a lot more likely right now than at other times. So we want to really avoid that. We want to be careful about our exposure so that we have time to really recover from our stressor rather than introducing a new one altogether. The last and final thing that needs to be focused on during this letdown period is sleep. A lot of times when we go through stressful periods, we don't sleep as much as we really need to. Let's be honest, or our sleep is interrupted or disrupted. So, what we want to do is make sure that we're getting at least 8 hours of sleep, meaning at least in the mid range of how much sleep you need. If you generally need 5 to 7 hours of sleep, make sure that you're getting at least 6 hours a night. Everyone's body is a little bit different. Whenever I talk about sleeping 7 to 9 hours, people are always like, oh, Cassie, I don't need that much sleep, or oh, I need more. It does not make you lazy if you're a person whose body needs 10 hours of sleep, and it doesn't make you heroic if your body needs 5. That's just what your body uniquely needs. And we need to stop shaming ourselves about the amount of sleep that we need to feel our best. Ensure that you're getting enough sleep, maybe even a little extra sleep, especially as I'm recording this, it's fall. Most of the time, we need more sleep in the winter, anyways. That's part of human biology. But you want to be getting some extra sleep, make time for that extra sleep, and do not punish yourself for it. Your body is in recovery. So you need it. Stress is incredibly difficult for your body to deal with, especially long term stress. And seeing it as more similar to an illness or something like that you would have to recover from and you would need extra rest will hopefully give you the opportunity to give yourself some grace about the amount of sleep you may need in these days. So give yourself credit for it. And by the way, there is no shame in writing in your accomplishment journal that one of your accomplishments for the day was actually sleeping the amount of time you needed. Because for some of us, That really is a huge accomplishment, not pushing yourself to skimp on sleep. This is very unlikely to be a productive time in your life, and that's okay. The most important thing here is that we want to come out of our high stress state as healthy as we possibly can, transition into our lower stress state as best we can, so that we have that recovery time we need. This is not a time to focus on hustling, to add more things to our plate, or to be uber productive. You will not be able to long term withstand that. And if you lean into that as your way of coping, because now you feel like you have so much time and you're going to force yourself to do all of these things, what you will end up doing is either creating almost an addiction type cycle to your own stress hormones or burning out. And eventually, in high stress, no matter what you do, you will burn out because your body and brain know that there's only so much time that your body can tolerate those elevated stress hormone levels before you're going to start seeing illness or seeing mental health issues and things like that. So we want to make sure that we don't do that. Burnout takes years to recover from. So take the time to prioritize caring for yourself well during letdown. Take the time to prioritize transitioning into a lower stress state in a way that is healthy and supportive of your mental and physical health. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be digging deep into fear, self-discovery, building your future and goals in the coming months. And you don't want to miss a single thing. I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.